How you doing, guys? My name's Dave, and I'm going to show you how to do a brake job on a 2014 Harley Street Glide Special. This is one of my personal bikes. It's got about 31,000 miles on it. These are original, there's the flag. These are the original pads on this bike. So it's pretty easy to do. We're going to start by removing this screen, and it's just pressed in there like a spring. You just pop it out with a screwdriver. Easy. And then you have to remove these two mounting bolts. See if I can do this with one hand while I hold the camera. I should be able to run those up with my fingers now. Alright, so there's the pads. We'll take them out and measure them. But to take them out, it's pretty simple. You got to remove this little spring clip. It just pulls out. And then you take out this Allen bolt. So I'm going to pause the film while I do that because I need both hands. Okay, so I removed the spring clip and I pulled out the Allen bolt. Just takes a couple of seconds. Now, can I do all this with one hand? So now we're going to pull the pads out. I think if I just lift up on the bottom here. Wish I had a third hand right now. Okay, so I didn't have a third hand, so I had to put the camera down. But anyway, so the pads are out. They just lift out of there. It's not rocket science. This one is pretty thin. The other one actually looks like brand new, which stinks because now I'm going to have to replace them. I was hoping maybe they were still good enough to go another season. But that's okay. So let's get the micrometer out. And Harley-Davidson service manual says that the minimum brake distance is 16 thousandths. So if the pads are worn to less than or 16 thousandths, they need to be replaced. This one's probably pretty close. Here again, I'm going to have to put the camera down, unless maybe I can lean it up against a can of oil here. Let's see. I don't know if that'll work or not. See if I can show you all this. So like I say, this one here is pretty thick. It almost looks like brand new. And I don't know if I can get this in the video or not. Okay. These are 106 thousandths thick, so that is not quite new. New would be 280 thousandths. This one here is quite a little bit less. Like I say, the first one was 107 thousandths. I'll bet this one's a lot less. This one is 68 thousandths. So technically, that's still good. But I got them apart. Brake pads are not that horribly expensive, about $35 a pair for decent ones. So I'm going to go ahead and replace them while I got it apart. Well, again, I don't have three hands, so I didn't show you how to put them back in, but they're real easy. You just tilt the tops in and push them down, and they just pop right in there. It's not rocket science. And then you reinstall the Allen wrench bolt, Allen head bolt right there, put the clip back in. These have to be torqued, and I got to look at my notes. I forget what the torque spec is on them. Okay, so I reinserted the pad pin, the hex bolt right there, and I reinserted the retaining clip. I'll torque it once I get it mounted on the bike. It torques to 95 inch-pounds. Again, I wish I had three hands or a helper, but I did. By the way, let me take this caliper back off. Once I put the pads in there, I did spread them apart slightly with a screwdriver. So it should just slide back on the disc the disc pretty easily. Yeah, maybe I need to spread them apart a little more. All right, got to put the camera down. Right back. Okay, so I spread the pads apart a little bit more with my screwdriver, and now it slides on pretty well. Sorry, but I need my hand. I'm going to insert the top caliper pin bolt. That one's in. And now the bottom one. Like I said, we have to torque the pin pad bolt to 95 inch-pounds, and the caliper mounting bolts, those go to 35 foot-pounds. So 1 second, I'll get both of my torque wrenches out and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I don't think you can see it, but here's the calibration mark. So I've got it set for 35 foot-pounds, which is not a whole lot. And all you do is put it on the bolt. I usually just snug them up a little bit. I don't torque them right down. Snug each one up just a little bit. Say to like maybe 20 pounds. I just kind of do it by feel. Okay, now they're both pretty close, so now we're going to torque them to 35, and you'll hear the torque wrench pop when they're torqued. Listen. That means 35 pounds. Now I'm going to do the bottom one. 35 pounds. And we'll just check them one more time. Okay, so we've got the caliper mounting bolts torqued to 35 foot-pounds, and we're going to get my inch-pound torque wrench out, and we're going to adjust it to 95 pounds. So I got to pause the camera once again. Okay, so again, you can't really see the calibration marks in this video. Plus, lately my phone hasn't been focusing real well. But anyway, I've got my inch-pound torque wrench set for 95 inch-pounds, and we're going to insert it. Flip the ratchet the right direction. Do this all with one hand. Get things right here. There you go, 95 inch-pounds. And then you just reinstall the little shield. There's two prongs. They go on the bottom. The one prong goes towards the top. Sorry, my video's not a little bit better. It'd be nice if I had a helper here, but I don't. And that's how you do a brake job on a Harley. Pads, like I say, are about $35 or so a side, or a set, I should say. So, oh no, I take that back. I'm sorry. They're $35 a side. So just call it $70 for parts just now to do this brake job. And literally, it probably took me 10 minutes at the most to do probably both sides, 12 minutes. I'm not sure, but if you took it into a Harley dealer, I think you'd probably be looking at about $300. I'm going to do the rears next, so stand by. Okay, so we're going to do the rear brakes again on this 2014 Street Glide Special. A couple of years ago, I did a service on one of these for a buddy of mine, and when I took the bag off here to look at the brakes, can't remember if it was front caliper pin or the rear one. I can't remember which it was, but one of these was missing, and the other one was finger tight. I just turned it out and it popped right out, and his caliper was flopping back and forth. He said he didn't feel it moving. I can't believe he didn't, but funny thing was he had just had it at a Harley dealer for like the 5K service, and they didn't see that. So I thought that was pretty shabby. Again, we're going to take out this pad retaining pin. We've got to pull the clip out first. Might need a pair of pliers for that. Okay, so we're going to pull that retaining pin out. Can't get much of an angle on it, but it doesn't take much effort. It just pops right out. Nothing to it. And then while I've still got the caliper mounted, I'm going to go ahead and break this loose. I'm using the wrong hand here. So that's plenty loose. And now we've got to pull out the two caliper pins. I'd rather have both hands, but I don't. I'm not going to break a knuckle tonight, though, I can tell you. There we go. Alright, and those are pretty loose. Probably finger tight, yeah. Doesn't take much. And these have no thread locking compound, but they're going to have when I get done. I should have done that to the front, shouldn't I? Maybe I'll pull those fronts out and do that too. Ever since I saw that one caliper loose, I've been a little bit more leery of that. So we should be able to just lift the caliper off. And get my hand in there the right way. Takes just a little bit of finesse in it, but it comes out. And yeah, the rear pads, I don't know if you can see it, these are real thin, but I would expect that because, like, there again, I got 31,000 miles on this bike. I don't use any of my brakes very much, but I use my rear brakes a lot more than my front brakes, like anybody who knows how to ride would. But I do downshift the transmission a lot. I ran into a guy recently that didn't understand he was supposed to do that. Anyway, so I'm going to pause the video while I pull those pads out. Okay, so I got the rear pads out, and they are real thin. I'm going to mic them here in just a second. I knew they were last season when I serviced my bike. I looked at them and I knew they're getting close, but I knew I had one more season in them. So hang on just a second. I'll get the camera set up here a little bit, and I'll measure them and show you. These are probably below minimums, I'm guessing, just a little bit. All right, kind of hard to do this here. Huh. Technically speaking, they're still within spec. They're at, get the camera in there where you can see it. They're at 60 thousandths, and minimum is 16, so they still got a little ways to go. Probably could have rode another month or so, I suppose. But anyway, they're easy to replace, and it's not that terribly expensive. So, I got my new ones right here. I'm going to cut them out of the package and pop them in the caliper and put it back together and torque them. Just like I showed you the front, so I'm not going to bother showing you all that. There's nothing to it. Just put them back in there and torque them. And that concludes the Harley brake job. Aside from, I still want to check the brake fluid, obviously, when I get all done. And make sure if you do this yourself, before you ride the bike, you pump up the brakes before you take off, because there won't be any brakes there until you pump them a few times. So make sure you do that and check the brake fluid. Torque the bolts all to spec, and you're good to go. Thanks a lot, guys.